Obviously, the most notable thing that Congress does is they pass laws. So we're going to look at sort of like the different parts of like the lawmaking process. So the first part that we're going to look at is what we call congressional committees. This is where Congress does like all of its like lawmaking work. So there's a problem, right? There's 435 members of the House of Reps and there's 100 in the Senate. That's a lot of people. So it makes it really hard to have all 435 people in the House and all 100 in the Senate all debate on every single issue. Like Congress would never get anything done. So the solution is that both houses of Congress divide themselves up into small groups. So I just want to show you real quick. So these are what we call committees. Think of them as like individual group projects. These are the ones that exist in the House. These are the ones that exist in the Senate. So basically, what happens is when somebody's elected to either the House or the Senate, they can request what committee they want to be put on, but generally the leaders of the party are going to assign them to a committee. Maybe they have some background experience. Maybe there's a reason why they're being assigned to a particular committee. Senators tend, because there's less senators, serve on more committees, but each member of Congress is probably going to serve on multiple committees. So these are like what we refer to as committees. So, like, what's the point of the committee? Well, committees allow the members of Congress to like specialize. They don't really need to know everything about everything. They can dial in on a particular issue. Also, it prevents every congressperson from having to review every single bill that's proposed, every potential law. Because when a member of Congress proposes a bill, it goes to the most relevant committee for review. The whole Congress doesn't get to see every single bill that's proposed. So if it was a transportation related like bill, it would be sent to the transportation committee and they would get to look at it first and make decisions with it. So it's just like a much more like streamlined process. Think of this almost like a factory system. You don't have one person that's building the entire car, right? You essentially are responsible for like a piece or a component of it, and that's sort of like what the committee system is in Congress. Depending on what committee individual members of Congress are assigned to, it also can be pretty beneficial for them selfishly as well. If they're assigned to a really good committee, one that gets a lot of attention, it brings them prestige, exposure, gets their name out there, might make it easier for them to get like campaign donations. It also gets them access to pork. It's kind of a funny sounding like political term. It's not actual like bacon or anything like that. Pork is money and jobs that, because of your position on a committee, you're able to bring back home to your district or state which you represent. That you can use your influence really just to benefit the people that you represent. So here's a great example. This example of pork. So there's a representative from Ohio who's on the Armed Services Committee. He was successful in getting our government right to purchase $120 million worth of new tanks. Interestingly enough, the United States Army didn't want the $120 million worth of new tanks. But this congressman, because of his position on the committee, was able to get this approved anyway. The interesting thing is that these tanks are made in a factory in his home district out in Ohio. So, the Army doesn't want them. There's not a whole lot of other people in the country that will benefit as a whole, but he's bringing much needed jobs back to this factory in his hometown. So it's an example of what we call pork. Or how about this? A rep from Alaska was able to get $220 million given to Alaska to build a bridge from Ketchikan Island that has a population of 5,000 to Virginia Island, which has a population of 50. The bridge would replace what is now the current 7 minute like water ferry ride. So this has been nicknamed like the bridge to nowhere, and eventually it got so much negative attention that the plan was like abandoned. But like, what would this do? There's only benefit a small number of people, but this representative was able to use his position on a committee to get this project money like brought back to his home like area. And what would be in it from his home area is obviously a little bit of transportation benefit, but also this bridge would have to be built, giving much needed jobs to people living in these areas. So this is the committee system, influential for both how a bill becomes a law and also influential for individual members of Congress as